What's up, YouTube? I am back. Today we're working on a 1998 Mercury Marquis. This is the 4.6 liter V8. Today we're going to be changing the intake manifold itself. Someone tried to repair this thing some time back and it is now leaking again. I'll go ahead and zoom in and show you what we're talking about here. Somebody put some JB Weld or something on here and tried to repair this temp sensor. That's been leaking from the front. These intakes are very common for leaking. A lot of times they'll start leaking over here under the thermostat and up in the front on this gasket too. The new intakes don't actually have the gaskets separate. They're actually built in, as you can see here. This is the revised intake for the 4.6. You'll get this at any of your local auto parts stores. I actually got this kit here for $165 online at AM Auto Parts. Looks like a pretty quality piece. Came with thermostat, a couple brackets for different engines. And let's go ahead and get started, guys. Alright guys, first thing we're going to do is go ahead and drain the coolant out of the radiator. There is a drain plug right down here. Go ahead and get a drain pan under that. Make sure the car is cooled down. And pop that drain plug loose. It's just a plastic drain plug. Drain all that out. Go ahead and disconnect your negative battery cable. I got an 8mm wrench here. I went ahead and unhooked that, set that out of the way so you don't have any power going to your car. And next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my 1/2-inch drive on a ratchet, stick that right into the end of the automatic tensioner, and I'm just going to use my cheater bar here, stick that on there, pull that tensioner over, and go ahead and pull that belt off the alternator. And just lay it down. You don't even have to take that belt all the way off. Alright, next guys, I used that same 8mm and I went ahead and broke these 4 bolts loose on this top bracket. I switched over to a 10mm and I removed the hot wire on the alternator. That's a 10mm nut there. As well, I loosened these two 10mm at the bottom of the alternator. They don't actually have to come out. They just have to be loosened because they will slide off. Once you get those all broken free, go ahead and just take these 8mm out and you can lift the alternator off. Okay, we got the alternator free. I'm going to go ahead and move this bracket and go ahead and pop that wiring harness off the back of the alternator. There we go. Alright, next we're going to get this intake out of the way. Go ahead and loosen this hose clamp here with an 8mm. Go ahead and give that a wiggle and that should come off. These 2 hoses on the back will just slide out. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect my mass airflow here. Excuse me, my mass airflow sensor and this temp sensor here on the side of this air filter box. And I'm just going to go ahead and lift this whole thing out of the way. And I'm going to grab a pair of pliers here and go ahead and take this top hose off as well. And we'll just tuck that out of the way for now. Alright, the next step I'm going to take here, I'm going to try to take this throttle body off the intake here and leave as much on it as I can. I'm going to start by unhooking a couple sensors here. You got the throttle position sensor, you got the idle air control valve, so you can tuck that wiring away. There's this big hose on the back of the idle air control valve that you can set aside. That sits right here. There's a vacuum line back here. I'm actually going to replace this. The rubber is all dried and cracked. Make sure you check that. We can set that aside. I'm just going to go ahead and start unplugging a few vacuum lines here, getting things pulled out. Either end of this hose here is fine. Pull that guy off. Then we're going to go ahead and take these 4 8mm out here, and we may have to move this bracket here first, but we're going to take this off, unhook these brackets, and see if we can take this whole assembly here and just lift it up and place it over on the side. Alright, now we're going to jump over here to the passenger side. I went ahead and removed the 4 bolts from the throttle body. I removed, there are 8mm, there's 4 of those. I removed this 10mm bolt here. I also took an adjustable wrench and I went ahead and cracked this EGR pipe loose so we can take that off. If you don't have a big adjustable wrench, I think you can just take these two 10s off here and just go ahead and separate the EGR from there. I'm going to unhook this vacuum solenoid here. There's also a couple vacuum lines on the bottom of it I'm going to unplug. And let's see, in the back here, go ahead and take this line off. A pair of pliers. There is two 8mm on this bracket here. You can pull those cables off and sneak that bracket out of there to get that out of the way. Basically, we're just clearing everything connected to this throttle body so we can go ahead and lift it off when we're ready. I think I'm going to go ahead and get these vacuum lines unhooked here. Everything else is going to be unhooked, and then we'll go ahead and lift this baby off. Alright guys, we got everything loose. I unhooked the vacuum lines and laid those aside. Made sure that everything was free. One little note here, there was a fifth 8mm on this throttle body here. There was the 4 main ones, and there's a 5th one right down here. I went ahead and took that 8mm out, made sure everything else was unhooked. Then you can go ahead and lift this guy up and off. And I'm just going to unclip these wires here from these plastic clips. And I'm just going to go ahead and set this thing over here. And that way we can just go ahead and set it back on when we go to reinstall everything. Alright, before I go any further, I'm noticing there's a lot of sand and debris down in here along your along the fuel rail and the coils. Rather than take this intake off and all that fall down into the engine, I'm going to go ahead and cover up this hole here on the intake. I'm going to grab my compressed air and I'm just going to blow all this stuff out of here. That way we don't get a bunch of dirt and grease down inside of the engine. Alright, this bracket back in the back corner here is going to make you talk to yourself. I went ahead and removed this 13, which was on the top. It's a long bolt here. Now, down on the back side, I had to use a long pry bar and pop some of the wire harness clips off of that bracket. There was two 13s I had to remove first. A nut that was actually on the bolt for that bracket. I had to take this nut off first, which was a 13, and this bolt, which was a 13, move a smaller bracket out of the way, and then go ahead and use a 15 and go ahead and remove this out of the back of this bracket here, which was right in here. That little bolt was on there, that little nut was on there, and there's another bracket right in front of it. Once you get those out, you can go ahead and take this bracket out. Like I said, it's a pain in the butt to get to. Take your time. I used a short ratchet wrench 15, I used a short ratchet wrench 13, and I used a small 1/4 inch drive 13, and I was able to get it off. Alright, after you get that bracket off, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take this little plug here off of this back 8mm on the fuel rail. I'm going to then go ahead and take my 4 8mm deep well bolts out of the fuel rail. Once you get those 4 out, your injectors are unhooked. I'm going to go ahead and leave these fuel lines hooked up. If you just give these injectors a little wiggle and a lift evenly all the way up both sides, you can maneuver them out. Sometimes they're a little tight in there. Just give them a little bit of a shimmy. Once you get all 4 loose, I'm going to grab this injector rail here and just swing it up and out of the way. I'm not even going to unhook the fuel lines there. Sneak that over that. Unhook that, and we can just lay that off to the side. Alright, we got the fuel line out of the way. I then went ahead and took a 7mm socket and took the 8 bolts out of the coil packs here. I took all those out. You can go ahead and just snake these coil packs out. You might have to pull on them and give them a little twist. Sometimes the boots want to get stuck down in there. I'm going to go ahead and take out my 8 coils and just lay them over the side. I'm not even going to unhook them if I don't have to. That way I can just put them right back in their socket when we're done here. Those 8 are out of the way. I'm going to unhook this temp sensor here. There is a small sensor right under here on the driver's side head that I'm going to go ahead and unplug and lay out of the way. I'm going to then grab my pair of pliers and take this heater core hose off the intake. This wire harness has one little clip right here that you have to pop up out of the intake, and then the only thing we have left are our 10mm bolts. Looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them along each side, and our intake should be lifting out. I'm going to go ahead and break those bolts loose, and then we'll lift that intake out of there. Okay, I went ahead and took out the 5-10mm over on the passenger side. On the driver's side, there's 2 10s here on the thermostat housing. This cover comes off. Those are 2 long ones, and there's going to be 4 more along here. The 5th one we already took out with that bracket that was difficult to remove, which is a long one as well. Once you get those loose, your intake should be loose here. You can go ahead and just lift it up slightly and sneak it out from underneath that EGR hose, and there you have it. Your intake is free. Okay, on these gaskets here, I'm going to go ahead and remove the old gaskets. The new intake has gaskets kind of molded into it. Once I get these off, I'm going to take some paper towels and I'm going to stuff paper towels down in all of these holes here. I'm then going to grab my little wheel here and clean all these surfaces up so they're nice and clean. You got to get all the old stuff off of there and make sure they're nice and shiny. And then we'll go ahead and put the new intake on. Alright guys, here's a shot of the 2 intakes side by side. You'll see they made this front portion aluminum now because probably these were cracking on every single one for that temp sensor. As well, the old style had a gasket. The new style has these gaskets that are already molded in. They should hold up a little better than the old style. These spots right here were the culprit on the old style, all these water passageways. Anyways, I hope this video was able to help. The reinstallation is going to be the same as the disassembly when you took it apart. Take your time, clean your surface areas real well where these gaskets are going to meet up. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them on the video or shoot me an email. Have a great day, guys. Thanks for watching. Alright, your manifold should look something like that when you get done. All clean, no residue from the old intake gasket.